All right, ready to dive in? Today, it's all about large language models, or LLMs, like those AI chatbots that are everywhere now.
Right.
I bet you've even used one. But get this deep dive is going to totally change how you think about them.
Absolutely. Even if you've messed around with these AI tools a bit,
Yeah,
we're going way deeper than just chatting.
exactly.
Think of it like we're going behind the scenes to see how they pull off those crazy human-like answers.
Exactly. By the end of this, you'll be dropping LLM knowledge like it's nothing. Parameters, transformers, the whole nine yards.
Yeah, let's kick things off with that word large. It's not just some techie buzzword.
Right.
It's really the heart of what makes these things so powerful.
Okay, I'm all ears. What makes these models so large, and why should we even care?
Well, when we say large in LLMs, we're talking about three main things:
Okay.
the crazy number of parameters, the mountains of data they learn from, and the sheer computing power they need.
Okay, parameters, that sounds kind of technical. Break it down for us.
Imagine all the connections in your brain, those pathways that form when you learn stuff.
Yeah.
Parameters are kind of like that for LLMs. They're values that the model learns during training, connecting words and ideas.
Okay.
But we're not talking about a handful of connections. We're talking billions, even trillions.
Trillions. Whoa, that's more connections than I can even wrap my head around.
Yeah, like Claude 3 Opus over a trillion parameters.
Wow. So more parameters, more brain power.
It's more about complexity and capacity, really.
Hmm.
More parameters mean the LLM can understand and use language in more nuanced way, capturing those subtle things that make human communication so interesting.
Right, right. And they need a ton of information to build all those connections, right?
Absolutely. We're talking hundreds of billions of words from books, articles, websites, code, everything you can think of.
It's like feeding a supercomputer the entire Library of Congress and then some.
Yeah, multiple times over. Even
Wow, that's a serious data feast. No wonder they need so much computing power. Training one of these things probably takes a small country's worth of electricity, right?
you're not wrong there. Training a top-tier LLM can cost millions just for the computing resources.
Wow.
But you know what? The results, they're pretty amazing.
Okay, so large equals tons of parameters, massive data, and mind-blowing computing power. But what does all that actually let them do?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. This scale leads to something called emergence,
Hmm.
where LLMs start doing things they weren't even programmed to do.
Emergence. That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie. Give me an example.
Think of it like this. One little water molecule can't make a wave, right?
Right.
But get billions of them together, and boom, you've got the power of the ocean.
Wow.
It's something LLMs. The massive scale unlocks things we never taught them.
Hmm.
Like one mind-blowing example is how they can generate working computer code in a bunch of different programming languages, even though we didn't train them to do that.
Hold on, they can write code now. That's both impressive and a little scary. So it's like the scale itself unlocks hidden talents.
Exactly. And these emergent abilities are what make LLMs so different from the old ways of processing text.
Right, right. So how do LLMs stack up against those older systems? I mean, it wasn't always AI chatbots, was it?
Nope, not at all. Older systems were more like a team of specialists.
Okay.
Each one had just one job.
Okay.
You had one for grammar, one for facts, one for translation, and so on.
So like an assembly line for language with each worker focusing on their one task.
You got it. And each specialist was rule-based.
Oh.
It could only do exactly what it was programmed to do, nothing more, nothing less.
And LLMs are different because...
They're like that friend who can do it all,
Oh, yeah.
Write, translate, summarize,
Yeah.
answer your questions, even code, and they make it look easy.
Okay, so instead of a bunch of separate programs, LLMs are like one brain that can handle all those different language tasks.
Exactly. It's a huge shift from those rigid rule-based systems to models that actually learn and adapt.
Yeah. Okay,
So we get much more human-like output.
that's a great way to put it. It sounds like LLMs are bringing a whole new level of creativity to language. But there's one thing I'm still not clear on. This whole transformer thing. Is that just another name for an LLM?
The transformer. Not quite another name for LLM,
Okay.
but think of it like the secret sauce, the tech that made this whole LLM revolution possible.
Okay, you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Imagine you're reading a mystery novel. You don't just focus on each word by itself, right?
No, definitely not.
You're connecting clues, remembering characters, building the whole story in your mind.
Exactly.
That's kind of what transformers do with language. They've got this thing called the attention mechanism
Okay.
that lets them understand how words relate to each other, even if they're far apart in a sentence.
So they're not just reading words one by one, they're making connections and seeing the bigger picture, like a human would.
Exactly. And that's why they can get context, nuance, all that complex stuff that older systems just couldn't handle.
That's pretty incredible. This attention mechanism sounds like a total game changer. What else makes Transformers special?
Well, they're super efficient too. They can process a whole sentence at once, making them way faster than older models that had to go word by word.
Speed and attention, two very valuable skills. But how do these Transformers actually learn?
They play a kind of fill-in-the-blank game. Imagine a sentence with some words missing. The transformer has to guess the missing words based on what's around them.
That sounds fun, but how does that actually teach them anything?
Through that process, they pick up on grammar, learn facts, and even develop a kind of common sense about how language works.
So they're always predicting and refining their understanding, just like we do when we're learning.
Exactly. And remember those layers we talked about? Well, transformers have multiple layers,
Yeah.
each one handling different levels of abstraction. Early layers might learn basic grammar, while deeper layers tackle meaning and how ideas connect.
Okay, so it's kind of like how our own brains process information. We start with basic sensory input and then build up to more complex understanding.
Exactly. And what's cool about transformers is that they keep getting better as they get bigger. More parameters, more data, more power. It's this scalability that's driving the insane progress we're seeing in AI right now.
All right, I'm starting to see why everyone's so excited about LLMs and this transformer tech. But before we move on, can we just clear up some of these buzzwords? There's so much talk about AI, machine learning, deep learning. It's hard to keep it all straight.
I hear you, it can get confusing. Think of it like a family tree. AI is the grandparent, machine learning is the parent, deep learning is the child, and LLMs are well, let's just say they're the gifted grandchild.
I love that analogy. So AI is the broadest term, meaning any tech that tries to copy human intelligence.
The edit.
Then we have machine learning, where computers learn from data instead of being programmed with rules.
Right. And then deep learning takes that a step further with those complex neural networks inspired by the human brain.
Right, those networks have many layers, hence deep, and they're really good at finding patterns in all kinds of data, even text.
Yeah,
And then we've got LLMs, which are a type of deep learning focused on language.
exactly. And within that, we have generative AI, which can create new content like those chatbots we mentioned, or even AI art.
So LLMs are part of deep learning, which is part of machine learning, which is part of AI. Got it. That family tree analogy is a lifesaver.
Knowing these differences is super important when you're talking about AI. It helps us understand what each AI system can and can't do.
Yeah, totally.
It's like knowing who's who in your family.
Right.
You wouldn't expect your great aunt to have the same skills as your techie cousin.
True. All right. I feel like we've laid a good foundation here, understanding what LLMs are and how they fit into the whole AI world. Now let's get practical. How are they actually being used in the real world?
This is where things get really exciting, and, well, we'll get into all that right after this.
Perfect. So we're talking about all the cool ways LLMs are being used out there in the world. Can you give us some examples? Like, what can these things really do?
Oh man, where do we even begin?
Yeah.
They're popping up everywhere. One of the most useful things is writing assistants. Think of it like having this super-powered writing buddy
Okay.
who can help you brainstorm ideas, refine your arguments,
Right.
even adapt to different writing styles.
Is this like, are they just grammar checkers on steroids or something?
Nah, it's way more than that.
Ah.
They can help you nail the right tone, make sure your writing is crystal clear,
Oh, wow.
and even generate creative content.
That's pretty awesome. What else are people using them for?
Well, customer service is changing big time. LLM-powered chatbots can handle a ton of inquiries,
Mm.
so human agents can focus on the tough stuff.
Right.
It's like having a whole team of virtual assistants.
Makes sense. I've definitely run into some pretty impressive chatbots lately.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can't even tell if I'm talking to a real person or not.
It's true, they're getting so good at sounding human. But what's even more exciting is how LLMs are changing software development.
Oh, yeah.
Tools like GitHub Copilot are changing the game for programmers.
GitHub Copilot. Yeah, I've heard that name. What does it actually do?
It's like having an AI partner for coding.
Really?
Yeah, it can suggest code as you type, create whole functions based on your comments.
Wow.
It can even explain what a piece of code does.
So it's a coding assistant that can help even pros work faster.
You got it. saving developers tons of time so they can focus on the more creative stuff. It's a great example of how LLMs can boost our abilities and do things we never thought possible.
That's incredible. LLMs are sounding more and more impressive. It seems like they're in every corner of the tech world. But what about outside of software? Like, what other fields are they being used in?
Oh, definitely. Education's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
LLMs can act like personalized tutors,
Okay.
adapting to how a student learns, giving them customized
All
practice,
right.
and offering specific feedback. It's like having a personal teacher just for you.
That's a game changer for education. Personalized learning for everyone.
Hmm.
What about healthcare? Are LLMs being used there too?
Absolutely. Doctors and researchers are using them to go through tons of medical research,
Okay.
help with patient notes,
Yeah,
and even explain complicated medical stuff to patients in plain language.
that's amazing. So LLMs can help doctors and patients understand each other better.
Yeah, it's like having an AI assistant to bridge the communication gap.
That's really cool. What about language translation? I bet LLMs are pretty good at that.
You're right on the money. LLMs are changing how we translate languages. They can capture nuances and context way better than older systems.
Okay.
So we get more accurate and natural-sounding translations, breaking down those language barriers so people can connect across cultures.
Wow, it's like they're making the world smaller, helping us understand each other better. What about research and just working with information in general? How are LLMs affecting that?
Well, they're becoming super valuable for researchers and anyone who works with a lot of info.
Yeah.
They can analyze huge data sets crazy fast,
Yeah.
find patterns and connections that humans might miss,
Right.
and even help come up with new research questions. It's like having a research superhero on your team.
It sounds like LLMs are basically essential for anyone who deals with information, no matter what field they're in.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this is just the beginning, right?
That's the exciting part. As these models keep evolving, we can expect even more incredible applications to pop up. It's like we're at the very start of the LLM revolution.
Okay, my head is spinning with all the possibilities.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with the future, I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, that attention mechanism. Can we dig into that a little more? It sounds like a big deal, but I'm still not quite getting how it works.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really important concept, so let's break it down a bit more. Basically, the attention mechanism allows LLMs to focus on the most important parts of a text, just like we do when we read.
Okay, I get that on a basic level, but how does it actually work in practice? It still seems kind of mysterious.
Imagine you're reading a sentence.
Oh, okay.
Your brain doesn't just process each word separately, right?
Hmm.
It's looking at how the words relate to each other,
Yeah.
picking up on things like grammar, word order, and context to understand the whole meaning.
Yeah, that's how I read. I'm always connecting words and phrases in my head to figure out what's being said.
Exactly. And that's what the attention mechanism lets LLMs do.
Oh, okay.
It's like giving them a spotlight. They can shine on different parts of a sentence as they read it. This spotlight, driven by some complex calculations, helps the model figure out which words are key and how they all fit together.
So it's like they're learning to pay attention to the right things, just like we do when we're trying to learn something.
Right. And this ability to focus is a big part of what makes LLMs so good at things like translating, summarizing,
Yeah.
even creative writing. They're not just mindlessly processing words, they're understanding how those words connect, just like a human would.
That makes a lot of sense. It's amazing to see how researchers are using the human brain as inspiration to build these powerful AI systems. But like with any powerful technology, there are always questions about the downsides. What are some of the things that LMs aren't so good at? What are their limitations?
That's a really important question. Because even with all the progress they've made, LLMs are far from perfect. They have
Mhm.
limitations, and we need to know about those as we start using these tools more and more.
Okay, so what kinds of things do LLMs struggle with? What are their weaknesses?
One common problem is factual errors. LLMs have access to tons of information,
Yeah.
but they don't always get things right. Sometimes they can hallucinate, which means they make stuff up or present info that's just not true.
Hallucinate? That sounds kind of creepy. Like they're making things up out of thin air.
Not exactly like that. It's more like they're making educated guesses based on the patterns they've learned. But
I-
those guesses aren't always rooted in reality.
Right.
They might confidently say something that sounds believable but is totally made up.
That could be a problem, especially if people are relying on them for accurate info.
Yeah,
It's like a student who aces tests but doesn't really understand the material.
exactly. It just goes to show how important critical thinking and fact-checking still are, even with these fancy AI systems. We can't just blindly trust what they tell us. We need to use our own judgment and check the info with other sources.
So even in the age of AI, don't believe everything you read is still solid advice. What other limitations should we be aware of?
Another area where LLMs can trip up is common sense reasoning. Things that seem easy for us, like understanding the physical world, social cues, basic logic,
Okay.
those can be tough for them.
So you probably shouldn't ask an LLM for advice on fixing your sink or navigating a tricky social situation.
Probably not the best idea,
Hmm.
at least not yet. AI research is still working on that, trying to give LLMs a better grasp of the world beyond just language.
It sounds like we've got a ways to go before LLMs can truly match human intelligence. But even with those limitations, they're still incredibly powerful tools.
Totally.
Mm.
And while it's super important to recognize their limitations,
Yeah.
it's also important to see the amazing progress that's been made. The speed of innovation in LLMs is mind-blowing.
Right.
Researchers are constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
That brings up a really exciting question. What does the future hold for LLMs? What breakthroughs are coming next? What can we expect to see down the road?
That's the question that gets everyone in AI fired up. And we'll dive into all of that right after we hear from our sponsors.
All right, so before the break, we were getting into the future of LLMs, and I gotta say, I'm pretty excited to see what's next. What kind of breakthroughs are researchers working on these days? What's cutting edge in the world of LLMs?
Oh man, there's so much cool stuff happening. One area that's really taking off is multimodal learning.
Multimodal learning. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds interesting. What is that exactly?
It's basically teaching LLMs to understand more than just text, like
Mm.
images, audio, video, you name it.
Oh.
Imagine an LLM that can not only read about a cat, but also see a picture of it, hear it purr, even watch it chase a laser pointer.
Whoa, that's amazing. It's like giving these LLMs a whole new set of senses, letting them experience the world in a much richer way.
Exactly. Multimodal learning could completely change how LLMs interact with everything. They could analyze images and give you detailed descriptions, understand the emotions in music, even create realistic videos from a script. The possibilities are insane.
It's like we're taking these LLMs from black and white text to full color surround sound experiences.
hmm
Okay, so what other breakthroughs are in the pipeline?
Another super exciting area is personalized learning. Imagine an LLM that actually knows your learning style, your interest, what you want to achieve,
Yeah.
and then it builds a custom learning experience just for you,
Wow.
recommending content, giving you personalized feedback, even changing its teaching style based on how you're doing.
That's like having your own personal AI tutor, always there to help you learn better. It sounds like LLMs could totally revolutionize how we learn, both in school and just in life.
It's definitely a game changer. And it's not just education either. These personalized LLMs could change so many things.
Yeah. Like what?
Imagine a personal AI assistant that knows exactly what you like and helps you manage your schedule, find information, even make decisions.
Wow.
It would be like having a super smart sidekick, always one step ahead.
It sounds like we're heading towards a future where AI is just a seamlessly part of our lives, giving us personalized help in ways we can't even imagine right now.
That's the direction we're going for sure.
Right.
But as we develop these powerful technologies, we have to be responsible. Think about the ethics.
Right, of course. We've talked about some of the things LLMs aren't so good at yet, like those factual errors and the common sense stuff. What are researchers doing to tackle those issues?
Well, one big focus is making LLMs more robust and reliable. They're coming up with new techniques to help LLMs understand context better, reason more logically, and double-check their own work, so to speak.
So it's about making them more trustworthy, less likely to make mistakes.
Exactly. A lot of it comes down to training. There's some really cool research going on with new ways to train LLMs.
Oh, like what?
One promising approach is reinforcement learning. It's kind of like training a dog, reward the good behavior, discourage the bad.
Okay.
With LLMs, it's obviously way more complex, but the idea is to create a feedback loop.
Right.
So the LLM learns from its mistakes and gets better over time.
That's fascinating. It sounds like a powerful way to teach LLMs to understand the world better. What other approaches are researchers looking into?
Another big one is incorporating human feedback into the training process. Imagine a team of experts working with an LLM, giving it guidance, correcting mistakes, helping it learn from real-world situations.
Right, that makes sense.
That kind of hands-on training could be super valuable for helping LLMs understand complicated ideas, social norms, all those tricky things.
It seems like the best AI systems are going to be the ones that learn from both data and human experience, combining the power of AI with human wisdom.
Absolutely. It's not about AI replacing humans. It's about AI and humans working together like a team to achieve more than we ever could alone.
I love that. It sounds like we're at the beginning of a new era of collaboration, where humans and AI work side by side to solve problems, create new possibilities, really push the limits of what's possible.
Totally agree. It's such an exciting time to be working in this field. LLMs are already having a big impact, and that's only going to grow in the years to come.
Right, and we need to make sure we're using these powerful tools wisely and ethically, focusing on the good they can do while keeping an eye on the risks.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Been a pretty wild ride, right? From the basics of LLMs to the big picture of what this technology means for the future.
Yeah, it's been an amazing deep dive. We've covered so much ground, and I feel like I have a much better understanding of what LLMs are all about, how they work, and their potential to change everything.
I'm glad to hear that. It's always awesome to see someone so engaged and curious about these ideas.
Well, you've been an amazing guide, breaking down complex stuff in a way that makes sense, even for someone like me who isn't super technical.
Hey, that's what we're here for.
Hmm?
It's all about taking complex topics and making them accessible for everyone, sparking that curiosity and encouraging people to explore these ideas further. The more we understand about these technologies, the better we can navigate the future, right?
Couldn't agree more. And I think this deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about, not just the tech itself, but our role in shaping the future of AI.
That's the key takeaway. These technologies aren't just tools. They reflect our values, our hopes, even our fears.
Right.
The decisions we make today about how we develop and use AI, they're going to have a huge impact on the world we build for ourselves and future generations.
So it's not just about the code, it's about the conversation, right? Having these important discussions about the ethics of AI, the potential dangers, and the kind of future we want.
Exactly. These conversations need to happen everywhere, from research labs to, well, everyday life. The more we talk about these things, the better prepared we'll be to handle the challenges and opportunities of this new AI-powered world.
Well said. I'm definitely walking away from this deep dive feeling inspired and energized. It's been a real eye-opener.
Me too.
I can't wait to see what the future holds for LLMs and the whole field of AI.
It's an amazing journey, and it's just getting started. Remember, keep asking questions, keep learning, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of LLMs. We hope you learned something new, got curious, and maybe even started to imagine all the incredible things AI could bring to our future. Until next time, keep exploring.